So we are live with the Craft Beer Blab, going out with Jonah Di Pasquale and myself. My name is Gunnar, craft beer lover, lifelong cyclist, just, enjoying those passions and trying to share that with anyone else that's willing to listen. Jonah?
Absolutely. And I'm Jonah Di Pasquale from Rochester, New York, avid cyclist, snowboarder, social media enthusiast, and also fellow craft beer, drinker, connoisseur. It's all good. I don't know. I don't know if you want to use connoisseur in the same sentence, but either way.
Connoisseur has kind of a snobbish undertone to it, I guess. It's
bad description.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
But,
well, thanks for gathering us up today. What do you got in the pipeline?
Let me see here. I know I kind of wanted to talk about, but maybe first we can get a drink going. I was not able to go out. You had talked a little bit earlier about what was your choice for tonight? Ah, yes. There it is, Delirium with the pink elephant on the bottle. Nice. Sealed up and everything. So I don't know a whole lot about that particular beer other than it is direct from one of the beer meccas of the world and also cycling meccas of the world, Belgium. I mean, yeah, every hard cyclist dreams of going to Belgium and racing the either cyclocross or the spring classics. So
definitely, yeah. No, to be honest with you, I think that's where a lot of the influence to maybe choose this for tonight's choice. I have a good number of my cycling compadres that I've seen them enjoying a nice little pint after a race, and I figured, you know what, why not? I'm always open for change, so I figured I'd try something different. And the other interesting thing that I want to share, and I don't know if this happens to you, but you sort of get that little doubting Thomas when you're making your beer selection, and
yes.
and Gunnar, I don't know if this happens to you, but it's funny. Like a couple times, I almost wanted to kind of jump to my default beer or flavor, and I think the beauty of the craft beer blab is it is definitely encouraged me to try to move into some different directions of palate, I should say palates of taste. So
Right.
I think that in that respects, there really are some great opportunities, especially here in live stream, to sit down and listen to some unsolicited beer reviews, because I'm not getting paid to do this. I don't know about you.
No, yeah.
So I think the beauty of the advice is it's right to the point. So folks that are able to watch this could say, oh well, I agree or I disagree, or either way. And of course, I don't know if Gunner's mentioned, we got 2 seats open. If you guys want to jump in, please, by all means, we'd love to share and listen to your insights as well.
Yes, definitely. So what I have today is I have actually 2 that I will be probably cracking open. One is, this is RMB White IPA.
Yum.
And white IPAs.
Here.
Yeah. So RMB is hey, Tommy Crowder and Hoppy Trolley. Okay, I will have Hoppy Trolley come in.
And Tommy, wow.
And Tommy.
Mammy.
Yeah. Actually, let me. Nice. Hey, Tommy, how's it going today? Oh, Oktoberfest. Nice.
Get it. Stegmaier. Wow. That was pretty
I am in Wilkes-Barre, PA tonight. Yeah. Coming to you live.
Nice.
So I wanted to bring something local from the area to the table.
Excellent.
I love it.
And Hoppy Trolley, nice to see you on here. Excellent.
Hey. Good to see you, Happy Charlie. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Yeah. Ooh. You got it. Tommy, what do you get? Stegmeister, huh?
Stegmeister, Oktoberfest. I'm not a big Oktoberfest drinker, but the guy at the liquor store right down the road from the hotel was like, he's like, it's decent. He's like, if you never really had a whole lot of Oktoberfest, which I haven't, I've never been really big in the Oktoberfest, but he's like, try this. So I'm trying it. It's local.
Nice.
Smells good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, what do you like? Oktoberfest, does that fall into like a Pilsner? Is it Pilsner, right? Pilsner, would you say, Gunnar? Pilsner?
It's a lager. So, but not as light or as golden as a Pilsner usually. I think it's more brown. And let me look it up here real fast because I know that there's.
It's kind of it's pretty. It's not real stout. It's not.
It should have, as far as I know, it should have kind of a malty character to it. Not overly hopped, although some of them, yeah.
It's light. They're really light. It's light. It tastes light.
Almost a crisp flavor, yeah.
Right. Now, what about I know sometimes some of those Oktoberfest, they've got that I don't know. I don't really want to say it's like a skunky, weird, bitey aftertaste. Not like an IPA. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's like sharp. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like I've had some Oktoberfest. I'm just like, oh my god, this is horrible.
I'm not getting that with this.
Awesome.
Dave.
Nice.
I'm not.
Love it.
It's
cool. Excellent.
It's a real. I guess if I have to. It's light. Light's the only word. It's like a light blonde. If it was an IPA, it'd be like a light blonde. If that makes any sense.
Nice.
I think it does.
It's got the aftertaste isn't punchy at all. Like it's. I'd buy another 6-pack probably.
Right.
And what foods would you pair with that beer?
Well, right now I'm eating wings and fries.
Nice. Perfect.
Perfect. Beer. Perfect. Good answer.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I got this RMB. Again, it's a canned beer, white IPA. So white IPAs are usually, they're kind of like a standard IPA, except they have most of the time they're brewed with a coriander, like the seed from, I think it's the seed from cilantro. But the coriander in there, and it adds a little bit different flavor to it. Now, I don't normally like them because the coriander tends to overpower the beer, but we're going to see how this one goes. So it's R&B, so Rolling Meadow Brewery out of Springfield, Illinois.
Oh,
nice.
Midwest beer.
Yeah. So try to give a little bit. So it's real light in color. It's got a frothy head.
Nice. Nice pour.
Yeah. So we'll see here. Yeah, you can smell the hoppiness in it and a little bit of that coriander. So it's interesting. And then later on, I'll be cracking open. This is a homebrew.
Nice.
Tommy, I think I was telling you that I brewed a version of that Three Floyds Zombie Dust. So this is one of those. And so hopefully, I haven't had it in probably like 3 weeks. So
nice.
At that time, it was really excellent. We'll see how, maybe if it aged or how the extra 3 weeks did to the brewing there. And Hoppy Trolley hopefully is back in.
Hey.
Here he goes.
Yep.
Oh.
How did you brew that?
I brewed that. Actually, it was, so there's a company out of Minneapolis called Northern Brewer, and they sell all kinds of brewing ingredients, all the equipment that you would need, and then all sorts of, they're called recipe kits. And so they'll take a lot of popular beers and make recipe kits for them. So they had one that they called Zombie Dirt, but it's, Hoppy Trolley's having technical difficulties, but we'll join next week. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, let me give a shout out real quick, though, to them. So Hobby Trolley is a tour company or a tour bus company from up in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, the Twin Cities of Minneapolis. And what they do is, because there's a number of different breweries up in the Twin Cities, you can call them and schedule a tour where they will go and they will take you around to all the different breweries. So
that's fantastic.
I did one in the summer where we hit 4 breweries in an afternoon, and it was a great time. Nice for me, especially, or for our group. So we had about 8 people in our group. We were able to drive up there, meet at a brewery, get on this bus, and drive between breweries, which twofold, we don't have to drive, so we don't have to worry about, okay, well, you know, who's the designated driver, and, you know, who's unable to drive. And then 2, we don't know where all these breweries are. So it made it great so that we could not have to worry about that. So hopefully they'll be able to come back on next week and join us, because they have a great service, and would love to talk to them more about the idea of it and their scheduling and all that kind of stuff. But so anyway, thumbs up to them. They have a great thing going on.
That's awesome.
And then back to so how did I brew this Zombie Dust clone? So the Northern Brewer homebrew supply shop, they do mail order, so they'll ship anywhere. I think they have a flat rate shipping of $7. And I just picked one up. Actually, my home brewing accomplice picked it up and said, "Hey, let's try this." I said, "Sure." It comes with everything you need ingredients-wise. So it comes with malt extract, hops, and the yeast required, and then anything else that's required. And basically, you get an instruction sheet and just throw it in a pot, boil it up, add things, get a timer going, because you have different hop additions at different times, and brew it up, and then put it in basically it's like a bucket. Let that brew for about, or let that ferment for, I think it was like about 2-3 weeks at first. And then you bottle it and let it sit for another 3 weeks, and you're good to go.
What do you got there, Jonah?
This happens to be a little Delirium Nocturnum. I don't know, man. I think you need like a chainsaw to get this beast open. I was telling you, this is actually a Belgian, and actually I had some good friends of mine that have tried this a couple times, and I was telling Gunnar a few minutes ago, I was like, man, I was really itching to. I mean, first of all, I just want to tell you, this is a Belgian, and Belgians, they not only know their cycling, but they definitely know their beer. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever you have something that comes in this serving size, usually by the time you're done, you're feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And again, as I did some reading on this, I will tell you, as far as my experience with this, I've yet to try this. So again, you can see before I open this, it does have a cork top to it. The bottle is a brown bottle, but it does have this unique white finish to it. It's again, Delirium Nocturnum. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna get this beast uncorked here. This is where I don't try to popping caps here. Let's see here.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Let's see here. Whoa, dude. Whoa, that's a freaking sloppy pour. You better screenshot that, fail.
Yeah.
Just hide this. Nothing here to see. Yeah, that was probably not the best pour, but I can tell you though, it's got some body to it. And I'll get a little better pour here in a few minutes, but yeah. So that was my choice. And Tommy, one of the things I was telling Gunner is the interesting thing about this craft beer blab is it's kind of forced me to sort of go like in a different direction with my taste of beer. You know, like I told us, sometimes you get stuck in this rut. You keep drinking the same stuff. And I mean, in your situation where you're like on a road trip, you're like, all right, well, you know, I don't want Coors Light, I don't want Bud, I don't want Labatt. You know what I mean? Natty Ice,
right?
Natty Daddy ain't happening. But anyway, yeah. So this is let's see here. All right, I get a little better pour out of this. All right. Yeah. As you can see,
that is dark.
That's dark.
This is a side of the like massive 5-head of foam, but let's see here. Whoa, that's
Coffee?
No, not coffee. It definitely has some body to it. In the spirit of Belgians, this is like, I want to kind of say, I don't want to really use the word wine, but it definitely has that sort of that wine bouquet. I think, you know, the you know, again, I'm not necessarily saying it's carbonated, but just I think that whole bottling process has a lot to do with it. It's good. I can tell you right now that one bottle of this and you're gonna be freaking crooked. I'm gonna you know put a little. I'm gonna grab my kid's nipple and put it on here, but no, it's good. I can tell you though, it's only sold two ways. It's sold in this giant baseball bat. This was the deal. This was like around 10 or $11. They do sell it in 4 smaller splits, but it's like $20. So I'm like, I mean, and I think I don't necessarily know if this is a better deal. But I think that it is definitely it's a perfect beer for this time of the season here. It's a lot cooler. Red Flag comes out about the same no, Red Flag Dan commenting. Gotcha. Oh yeah, nice. Sorry, he said, "Damn, that's good beer." I typically, you know, one of the disclaimers for me as far as beer drinking, I'm definitely, you know, guilty as charged. Is like once the weather does start getting cooler, I do start like breaking out those more robust, heartier beers.
Right.
You know, the Oktoberfest and things like that, and that Stegmeister looks good. I may have to try that because, like I said, I don't usually go for like Oktoberfest style beers.
Right.
That one definitely good. Gunnar, I did have a question for you on that white.
Yes.
The white ale. I've tried Allagash. Allagash makes a white ale, and I've found white ales to be very good to the palate. Very smooth. Something that you could drink, you know, at room temperature, almost, you know, without any issues. I mean, what would you compare that white ale to in terms of some other things that you've
had? You know, I haven't had a whole lot of white IPAs, so it's kind of hard to say. Again, some of the white IPAs, I think, can't think of the brewery, but there's a brewery that has I think it's a white IPA called Chainbreaker. Maybe it's is it Deschutes Brewing? But their white IPA is a little too much coriander flavor for me, so I generally stay away. I mean, maybe that left a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I like coriander and I like cilantro, so it's not a big deal there. But when it's too much, I like beers that are more balanced. So when it seems like it's overpowered in one flavor, I don't necessarily like it so much. So I kind of shied away from them, but I happened to pick this one up and gave it a try. And it's a little more reserved on the coriander or on the spice. Red Flag Dan says coriander seeds good in salsa. Yeah, it is good in salsa with some cilantro and some jalapenos. So that would probably be a good pairing, is something spicy with jalapenos or something.
Nice coriander. That's good. You were talking about spicy beers. I think maybe down the road we can sort of feature a spicy beer, craft beer blab. Like I did try. There's a chili beer. I think it is. It's got like jalapenos or something like that. I don't know the name, but I've had it before. Let's see. Hey Tommy, what is that? Let's see here. I'm trying to research it out.
What is the chili beer?
Yeah. I don't know if they have it, but anyway, it was a while. It was good, and I don't know coriander. I mean, for me, I think it's good. I mean, I don't mind it. I think to your point is I usually overlook it as far as a flavor in beer, so
right.
That's why I find that interesting. You know what I mean? I think that's a really good observation on your part.
Right. I did have, let's see here, I had a spicy beer at a spring beer fest that I went to. And again, my Surly fandom kind of comes out because it was served by Surly, and I think it was called Holy Moly or Holy Mole. And so it was beer brewed with mole, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is a Mexican spice that is really hot and spicy, and has kind of a chocolatey component to it. And so they brewed this beer with that, and a bunch of my buddies had it also, and some of them didn't care for it so much. It wasn't something that I would say. Chili Devil, nice. That's interesting.
Chili Devil.
So
nice.
I basically just looked up chili beers. Yeah. Big D,
and I think Ballast Point puts out a habanero sculpin.
Yeah, you look for that.
That might be something to try too.
Or did you just see? By the way, Stone Brewing puts out a smoked porter chipotle pepper.
Wow.
Beer. Yeah, that sounds pretty gnarly, right?
There's one from Cape. There's a
chili.
Nice.
I would buy it just because of the label.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
No. So yeah, there is a place for spicy beers and for things that that are different, and that's a great thing too. You may have something that you may not drink like every weekend or something, but it could be something that is worth a try, and who knows, you might like it.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and it's funny. Just
go to D. What's the alcohol content on your beer there, buddy?
That is a great question. I probably should know that. Let's see here. It is 8.5. 8.5. Yep. And the other thing we were talking about to try to keep things on track is I know that we wanted to talk about brands that sell out. I know, Gunnar, last probably a couple blabs ago, you were talking, actually the original one I caught, you were talking about Surly, and I know that there was some banter coming in from the audience about the beer kind of breaking into the mainstream. And I don't know, Tommy, I don't know if you caught this, Blab, but I had talked about, for example, Magic Hat, and I remember I kind of put Magic Hat sort of in the same kind of arena as Surly. Like I can't. There's no way for me to get Surly beer unless I road trip. I mean I'd be shocked if I could get it here, and I don't necessarily know if that's the case. Getting to my point about Magic Hat, at one point, Magic Hat, the only place you could get it was up in Burlington. I mean, this is going back, back in the snowboard days and road trip and all that. Anyway, but
Right.
Once they realized that it was time to kind of, you know, sort of push out into a larger demographic and a larger audience, they started outsourcing their beers. You know, for example, in Rochester, we have a brewery, Genesee Brewery. Magic Hat is brewed here, and it's private label, you know, not necessarily private label, but, you know, it isn't necessarily small batch brewed. Now, I know Gunnar was talking about this last time with Surly, and, you know, I guess just to sort of kind of get to my point is I definitely I'm not as drawn to Magic Hat as I once was at one time. You know what I mean? Like I remember when, you know, Pale number 9 came out. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I never had anything like it. Now I could care less if I ever taste it. In fact, I don't even go. I'm serious. I don't even go for any of their stupid gimmicky 12 packs. You know, the holiday pack and the, you know, this and that. I mean, I think the problem with companies is once they get to that point, they have to start, you know, kicking in, you know, the marketing monster to sell their beer. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know about you, but I never in a million years when I was hunting for Magic Hat had to worry about any kind of marketing because I knew what the 6-pack sleeve looked like. I knew what the bottle looked like, and I especially knew what the freaking tap looked like in the bar. But I mean, I guess so. Let's just get that topic started here on the Craft Beer Blab, talking about companies that I guess I don't really like the word sell out, but I know, Gunnar, that was one of the topics that you and I were kind of kicking around as far as talking about these up and coming micro brewers or this big micro boom with beer brewers.
Right. Well, and what's kind of interesting is that, I mean, and, you know, maybe sellout is not the nicest term because, you know, I don't know, in most businesses, you want to build up a business to the point either where, you know, you keep control, or if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to, you know, buy your business for $10 million, then you're like, hey, all right, I can retire and, you know, I'll keep my name in just to have a little bit of control. But I don't have to run this thing. I don't have to worry about, you know, employing the people and firing the people and keeping everything on hand. Somebody else can come in and fund that stuff. And maybe I can just come up with, you know, new recipes or new ideas. And so
wouldn't that be the greatest job ever?
Right. I mean, that's kind of what, you know, to take another turn, you know, the American dream, you build something up. Somebody comes along and says, hey, awesome job. I want to take it over for, you know, X million dollars. And you're like, great. So I don't want to fault breweries for, you know, quote unquote, selling out. The problem is that as these bigger, and we're talking the huge companies of, you know, the Anheuser-Busch, InBev, and Miller, which there's a whole nother story there where currently they're merging to become one huge worldwide. There you go. Down to the last drop, Tommy.
Get it, Crowder. Get
it all in. But so they come in, they buy these little breweries, or they put other breweries out of business. And how they do that is that they have so much buying power that they can buy all the ingredients for super cheap, and then they can sell it to, you know, let's say your bars. They can sell a keg for $100 and still make, you know, I don't know, 20%, 40% profit on it. Whereas a smaller craft brewer will go in and they'll buy ingredients and they'll sell a keg, and they might only break even if they sell a keg for $100.
Right.
So, you know, it's hard for them to compete on that level. And then secondly, the distribution laws are that you can't. So if you have a brewery, you're not supposed to be able to distribute to retailers or bars yourself. You have to go through a distributor. What happens is that the large companies, they are the brewer and they also own the distributors. So like here in town, the distributor that distributes most of the beer is also Budweiser. So they can go into a store and say, you know, well, we want these 2 rows of just Budweiser and we want our craft stuff off on this corner. And they can basically buy out the shelving so that when somebody comes in, all they see is Budweiser. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to all that is. And again, I don't want to fault breweries for selling out, because heck, I would probably sell out too if I was in that position. But it seems a little unfair when these large companies come in and they can basically do what they want.
Right.
Well,
and I think that, I don't know. I think the reality of it is, to your point, a lot of it, without question, is dollar and media driven. Let's talk.
Absolutely.
Let's talk Super Bowl. Guys, I don't know about you, but I can't tell you when the last time it was that I had a Budweiser. You know what I mean? Or Labatt
NASCAR beer.
But right. But I mean, I think that, the perceived, like, Americanized, beer drinker, is that, we drink Budweiser or Labatt, Budwater. Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Red Flag Dan, Budwater. Oh, sorry, Dan. I thought you said Buttwater. Hey, real quick story on that. When I was living in New Jersey, working at a resort there in northern New Jersey, we had the locals called it the Bud Mud or the Bush Push, and I won't elaborate anymore on that. You guys can. But anyway, just to your point, I think that it becomes that fine razor edge. I told the story to Gunner, and I can kind of share the same with yourself, Tommy. Is one of the brewers of Magic Hat left the company to go and start his own company, and the name of the company is Fiddlehead. Now, Fiddlehead, the beer is phenomenal. And I tell you what, if you get to Vermont and you see Fiddlehead, just run through a brick wall to try it, because it's fantastic. But what I'm saying is, it's not. There's just. I would equate that to Surly. There's just no other way to enjoy that beer other than through the demographic. Now, I think, Gunnar, to your point, I like the fact that those companies stay those sizes. I mean, maybe the bean counters or the alphabet executives won't agree, but I would equate that like going to Europe. I mean, there are foods, there are wines, there are whatever that beverages that are distinct to those areas and those regions, and
Right.
I guess to a certain degree, we keep talking about Magic Hat. I mean, dude, it is what it is. I mean, that company,
Right.
they've blown up. I mean, it is a definitely a household name. I mean, I'm sure many a 21 and over beer consumer knows about Magic Hat. I think what we have to do is to do kind of beer, I guess, specialists, to use the cheesy marketing word. I think we find our pocket and our sweet spot. And, back to the point, with Tommy's conversation with kind of road tripping and saying, well, what beer do I try? I think this is the perfect form to kind of, exercise that interest and say, hey, I tried this beer. What do you think? Like, I'm all about spending the money on trying a different beer if I feel like there's value add and it tastes good.
Absolutely.
Hey, Ross, thanks for tuning in. Ross, we got an open window if you want to jump in there. I don't know what's going. You got a nice. Anyway, sorry. Is that you? Nice ringtone, man. That's awesome.
So I have
Yep.
moved on to Yinglinger.
Oh, nice.
I cannot get this.
Traditional.
I don't know about you, Gunner, but I can't get this shit in Indiana. I have to come east of Ohio.
Right. I don't think it's available here either. So that's a tough beer to get.
Have you ever had it?
I haven't had it. I've heard it's one of the best.
This is like the East Coast version of our Miller Lite, but not though.
Right. Well, Ross Quintana says I heard it was not good though.
It is light.
You know, the funny thing is, I have a perfect Yingling story for you. Again, back to working. Yeah, Ross, jump in, please do. We got
Yeah, if you can.
Ross in.
Poppy Trolley's still over there. Poppy Trolley's still.
Oh, is that what's going on?
Yeah,
because he's not on mine. I don't have any way of maybe getting him out.
Yeah, I don't see him on my end. I don't see him on my end.
Right. Well, Jonah, on your thing, do you have a co-host or host on your name?
No, just G. It says G. G is
okay.
guest. You don't want me to sign out and
yeah.
back in again?
I guess if you can, just to see if Ross can jump in. Okay, so now Ross can jump in. And there's Jonah. Okay. Hi, Ross. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Ross. How you doing? Good evening, or wherever you're at.
All right. Let's see here. We got to get audio, and then I got to find my controls here.
So, hey, Ross, while you listen to it, I'll tell my story. We were talking about Yingling, and when I was working in northern New Jersey, I didn't realize that apparently it was one of the oldest breweries in North America, or the first one, or whatever they're claiming.
Oldest.
Great.
Is it? And in northern New Jersey, I mean, they're nuts about the stuff. It's not bad. I definitely say, you know, where I would put it in my scale of beers. I mean, it's clearly a step above like the normal, you know, puppy swill. But I mean, would I go out of my way to, you know, drink it? Probably not. I mean, it's good. It is good. I think it's okay. I mean, you know what? Actually, that's a great fishing or hunting or camping. That's where I would put that.
Yeah.
So which one are we talking about?
Yingling.
Yingling Lager?
I haven't heard. I thought I heard it. I thought it was one of those not good beers, but I can't remember. I might have remembered it wrong. I haven't had it.
I haven't had one either. It's one of those that I'd like to try, and like Jonah was saying, it's one of the oldest breweries in the nation, and that I mean, from before Prohibition. And they've kind of kept some of the same recipes and a lot of and without going like huge like Budweiser. So,
okay.
Let's see here.
Being finally displayed.
Yes. We were talking a little bit
looks
about
just like an Anchor beer.
It does have kind of an Anchor feel to it. Yeah. So I was going to say we were talking a little bit earlier about. Sellouts or big brewing buying smaller craft breweries, but then I wanted to kind of get into something that a lot of people don't know about too, and that's contract brewing. And so what that is say I run a small brewery in my town, and I want to distribute in the next state over, and I don't have the capacity to brew the beer. I will have a brewery, maybe in Wisconsin, and I'll give them the recipe. They will brew it, bottle it, package it, distribute it, and it'll have my name on it, but they're basically doing all the work. I'm not sure what everyone else kind of feels about that type of, I don't know, sellout, you know, for lack of a better term. Or if anyone has any thoughts on that, or have you come across any? I'll tell you a little story. So during the summer, I went down to Iowa and visited a brewery that has, they're supposed to be really well known, supposed to have excellent beer. I went down there to almost, not specifically, but part of the trip was to visit this brewery and to pick up some fresh beer from their brewery. It just so happened I went there, and the brewery was closed that day. They were remodeling the bar. So I couldn't get any beer. I came back up home, and the next week they started distributing that company's beer in my town. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get. And so I got some, and it was good beer. But then I learned later on that it was actually contract brewed from a brewery, I think, down in Florida. So here I am. I'm one state over from this brewery. I want to go there. I want to buy beer. I couldn't buy beer. I could buy their beer the next week, and it's actually brewed from somewhere else. And, it was still good beer, but it's not necessarily what I think of when I think, okay, a small little brewery, I'm going to go and buy beer. And I think, okay, great, they're in town. I'm going to be able to pick up their beer. Well, I'm not necessarily picking up the beer that they're brewing in their little brewery. So my little story, I don't know what you guys think or if that's even a concern.
Well, I think it depends on the company and what's being changed in the capacity to be able to actually brew it with honor. I know that, like, great example, Trader Joe's. They have a lot of white label beer, which is made from other companies, but they slap their label. And it's almost like that in reverse, where it's
right.
Like, you know what, at the end of the day, I care what's in the glass. As long as it's good, I'm it's still got to prove it to me. If you have a beer where it's like, oh, this is amazing, and then they slap the name on it, somewhere else is making it, and it's garbage, then that's where I would have the problem, where it's like, I feel sorry for the people who are buying that because they thought they were getting something better and they're getting shortchanged. But I think as long as you're staying with good beers and good brewers, I can't imagine somebody, like Stone or somebody shopping themselves out to somebody who's going to make their beer horrible. Like, they wouldn't probably do that. Whereas if you get into some other places, like that don't care about beer as much, I think it'll be easy to detect that, because it's going to come down to quality beer. Quality beer makers are not, if they are outsourcing that, it's not going to change. And if they're quality, and otherwise, I think that you'd know it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that's a great point. In fact, I think that a lot of times, I'll use Gunner's point about companies going big box. I've had some of the best coffee that I can recall in bulk from, believe it or not, BJ's, and it's exactly that scenario. It's coffee that probably is white labeled, or who knows? You don't even know where it's from. But Ross, great point about Trader Joe's, and that that's exactly it. I have actually tried a couple of those, like, I don't want to say generic beers, but they've actually been very good. In fact,
they got some good beers there.
They have some good brewers behind it. I can't remember the list of people, but they have a couple of ones that you'd be like, okay, well, then that's going to be good beer, even if you put another label on it.
Right. Well, and I actually pick up every year since they opened a Trader Joe's in our town, their vintage, I don't know if they call it vintage holiday ale or vintage seasonal ale, but every year around Christmas time they come out with a new one, and I'll buy like 3 or 4 bottles, and then I'll age some and I'll drink a couple right away.
Everybody's reading at the same time.
Yeah.
Silence falls upon the dark.
Just reading J.S. Gilbert's comment. He said, "You guys."
J.S. is the man.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've actually I've stumbled across that beer this summer, and I had a little something, whatever it is, and man,
little copper ale.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and I mean, when you talk about a beer that just has a great finish, great body,
very smooth,
great taste. It is that is definitely, when people think of that company, that's the go-to beer. For sure.
It reminds me of something that New Belgium would put out. I can't remember, like, in a way, like the way they made their porter, and it's really smooth, and it's got some nice things going on. That reminds me of that. Lagunitas was up here at one of our beer shops, and they had their little layout. And I'd remembered, because I do beer reviews online too, but with under Beer Disciples. But I was looking at it, and I remember Hop Stupid was one of the first ones that I reviewed for my show, and I remembered it more fruity hops, and so I thought it was like Cascade hops or something like that. Now, I went back having it now. Of course, palate's totally changed as well. Right. But I came back to it expecting that, and I remembered liking it for that, because that's the hop profile that I like. But I came back to it, and it was really like Centennial, like kind of piney, and I was like, not feeling this anymore. And then I had all their other ones, and like their Sensor Ale, I was like, oh, I don't like that at all. I'd throw that right out the garbage.
Right.
Sorry. I know that there's beers for everybody, but I was like, I don't like that. Someone else was like, oh, I think that's great. I'm like, oh, that was the worst one out of the whole set that I tried. Little something something was the only one that I really liked out of that, and mostly it was because it was kind of smooth and balanced, and yet you still got a decent little mouthfeel. It wasn't big. I like imperial stouts, so oops, Freudian slip. But yeah, it was like, it just reminded me of like, I can't even remember. There was another beer from New Belgium where I thought the same thing. It was like kind of just slightly silky, smooth, easy drink. And I was like, okay, that's a good beer coming off of like their other ones, which, for hop heads, hey, maybe it's, I don't diss a beer across the board because I'm like, somebody likes that beer. It's their best thing. But, for me, I'm an imperial stout kind of guy. So it's like,
oh, okay. Nice.
I'm picky in my IPAs because I like fruity hops. Like, do you guys where are you guys from? You get Odell?
I do get Odell.
Have you had Mercenary?
I haven't had Mercenary.
I'm not an IPA guy, and that made me like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this. It's a double IPA, but they don't say what hops it is. I'm pretty sure it's Cascade just from how it tastes. But it's like the best representation of Cascade hops probably that I've had.
Nice.
That's funny, Ross. You said hop heads. That cracks me up. If you watch our last Blab, I grabbed Gunner was a Hoptium, dude. The IBU was 100. I'm sitting. I'm like,
where are you guys at? So I get an idea what beers you're drinking.
I'm out of Rochester, New York.
Okay.
And I'm from Rochester, Minnesota. Here,
Minnesota. What's in a boot?
Yep.
That's not Minnesota.
Yeah, no, well, that's Canada.
I know. I started Canada. I'm not sure what it is. Where are you at, Tommy?
Presently, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania, but I'm from Indiana, South Bend.
Okay, so we got a little bit of everybody. I'm up in Spokane, Washington, so
oh, nice.
I'm going to represent the Northwest.
Yeah. So you're right in hop country there. So you know your hops then.
So much hops. Actually, we rented a house one time, and there was all these vines crawling up the thing. Comes find out it's hops. Like they were just the whole left side of the house. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was like, oh, I don't want to go over there and weed whack all that stuff. Right. So, you're seeing it and it's going all the way over like the telephone line and all that and everywhere. And then I go out there one day and I see it's hops and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And this is like in the city. So I'm like, yeah, I guess that's where we're at. We just hop whiling.
That's awesome.
No, but it's cool. So if you get Odell, have you had Lugene? Chocolate milk stout?
No.
Two of their beers are on my like top beer lists. Mercenary and Lugene. Lugene is tied for the best chocolate beer across the board, but chocolate stout more particularly. And then Mercenary easily for Cascade hops. If you like fruity hops, that's like the beer. It's freaking ridiculous. What are your guys' favorite styles?
For me personally, I've been leaning more towards the IPAs, so the real hoppy stuff. Lagunitas sucks, fresh squeezed, and Surly's have a lot of hoppy beers. So Surly Furious and some of their others. So,
nice. What about you, Tommy?
I'm more of like I like domestic beers. I'm into domestic beers. I drink I like Modelo.
Okay.
I guess that's not really domestic. I mean,
I get what you're saying.
If I can get a hold of Yingling, I will, but I can't because nobody west of Ohio can really get it.
So I came in all stupid saying, "Isn't that a bad beer? Hey, this is my favorite beer. And let me hold it for you." Okay, come on, no, but you're sporting. See, you can't quite see because it's just I go dark. Let's see, when I get over there, then you recognize.
Oh yeah.
You see what you look. Oh, that's not a moon.
Beard recognizes beard.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. And I got some red in here. You can't see it on cam too much. So.
But I went and bought today. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on, let me. I'm not really an Oktoberfest drinker, but I got Stegmeier's Oktoberfest. It's a local beer here in Wilkes-Barre.
Nice. I haven't had anything from them. I'm Oktoberfest to me is just like a appetizer to get to the real fall beers I want.
Oh, true.
Yeah, and I'm not really a seasonal beer drinker, you know, so I'm not into like the Christmas beers or the pumpkin beers. Like that to me is I just can't dig them. But I mean, and that's really probably my first time.
We forgive your sin of not liking pumpkin beers, especially at this time, this holiest of times.
No.
No, you know what? Yeah, I go on a little pumpkin beer search every year. Still haven't found pumpkin pie in a bottle, but I get it. You know what? Like I like flavored beers too. Some people they're just not down with that. Like I love a coffee stout. I love chocolate stout. Stout. I mean, whatever kind of big nasty flavored beer you can make. Temperatures have arisen. You know, I'm down with that, but that sounded totally different than what he said. He's pulling his shirt.
Right. It wasn't what you think.
No, you know, but I get it. Like, even when I do a review, like, one of the things that I try and do is, like, maybe that's not my style, but it's someone's best beer, so I don't like I may tell them, here's why I don't like it, but then I'll be like, right. But then I try and relate it to other beers and be like, if you like this beer, you probably love this beer because it's like that plus more roasty or this plus something else, you know. Because everybody's tastes are different, what their preferences are, and I don't want to dog a world-class, you know, beer because I just don't like that style. You know, I've done that before where it's like you have something that's like top 5 and you're like, this is horrible. But then I'm like, well, that's not my thing.
I think Ross, you bring up a good point, and I think we can roll this right back over to our food choices. It's exactly the same. I mean, you know, think about like we go to the mall, we go to the food court. I mean, you know, like I'm gonna be like, yo, dude, I want to rip like Asian wok, and you know, and Gunner's gonna be like, dude, I want like Taco Bell, and like Tommy Crowder who's not here, he's gonna be like, you know, I don't know, I want like, you know, whatever, Fruitenglaza. I mean, but my point is that I think that everyone, you know, your palate dictates what you like, and you brought up a very valid point. I agree with you 100%. There's beers my friends have brought over, like, you know, hey, here's my 6-pack. I've been like, okay, and I give it the token try it. I'm like one, you know, like the one and done. I'm like, I'm good. You know, red flag. Red Flag Dan, for example, he's like, hey, man, I had some pumpkin beer. Guys, right there is where I draw the line. I will not. Guys, if there's anybody that wants to advocate for the 2 things that pumpkin should be used for, okay, you can screenshot this. Number 1 is pies, and number 2 are jack-o'-lanterns, and that's it. But you know, honestly, I've tried a number of pumpkin beers, and I've never been able to say that's my beer or I could do that. And, you know, so it's a good point, though. I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's important. One of the reasons why I even started my show was because I realized that there's tons of beers. People don't know what they are. They're just buying on label. They don't know the styles. They know it's good. And so I did that originally to kind of expose people to it instead of them having to just buy a bunch of garbage beer. And I knew from other things that I did that there was going to be some really exceptional things, and there's going to be a lot of average things that you just have to sift through. And, you know, that's the thing with beer is like to be helpful or to have a good conversation about it, you got to understand the characteristics. of the beer. What the hell? I'm getting a echo. Does anyone else hear that?
No.
I'm not getting an echo. No.
Oh, it's because I accidentally opened another blab. It was a true echo, actually, not by bad setup, but actually 2 tabs of the same thing being open.
Oh, nice.
No, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, even with pumpkin beer, and then there's like beers that, like, I wasn't an IPA guy until I had a couple of beers that I was like, all right, I'm down with that. I wouldn't do these other ones. And there's such a variance in hops, in flavor profiles, that you can go really off the charts from one person who just likes total, like, piney, grapefruity, bitter hop, and then someone else who has a totally kind of sweet, melon, fruity hop or floral hop or something like that. Like, one of the best things I ever did was I went to a McKellar tasting, and they had their single hop beers, and they had like all 16, and we tried all of them. So it's the same recipe, only the change is hops.
Nice.
And so that you could literally sit there, and we took notes on every single type of hop, every type of hop, so that you were like, okay, these 5 are like piney, and these 5 are grassy, and these are kind of, grapefruit. And that changed everything for me, because it's like learning to speak as a kid. Once you have a vocabulary and can discern between this and that, you can start to kind of understand your world better, and you can definitely explain it better. So to me, that's like, someone should just, if they have that ability, like, spend $100 or something, do yourself a favor and do that, because that, without being a brewer on top of that, like, to be able to go through and really understand to where I can drink a beer and kind of guess what hop it is, that changed everything for me. That's the difference from going to coffee and being like, oh, I don't like coffee. Well, it's like, yeah, but there's tons of types of coffee, so there's probably some you'd actually like. But if your mind is like, coffee is coffee, then
you're not going to like it.
Hops, I don't like hops. So I don't know which beer did you drink, and we'll talk about what you don't like about it.
Right.
So
I got
silence for the poor.
Yeah. So this is a homebrew.
What up, yes?
I'm getting my kicks vicariously through you guys because I don't drink anymore. But I think it's important to be knowledgeable about spirits and wine and beer. And it actually was a big part of my life. I was in the hospitality industry for years and years and years. So
awesome.
Yeah. Nowadays, what I will do is I will go to beer and wine tastings, and I just swish and spit. But then you can still be part of the conversation, and I like being able to go to dinner with people and order the wine, that's and be knowledgeable about it, So.
Oh yeah, well, and then to be able to maybe pair beers with food and that type of stuff. That's a great skill to have.
Oh yeah, that makes a huge difference. When I managed for Starbucks for a while up in Seattle, and when you're there, even maybe more than some of their other places where they expanded at, when you're there at that time, in that place, they take coffee really seriously, and it's not like over here. Like, if you're going to manage there, you go for a month to like a coffee school before you ever even get a step into a store. So I totally respected that about them. And, you go to the roasters and you do food pairings with all of their coffee blends and all this, and you got to write it and you got to learn all this stuff. And, talk about authenticity, but it was there where I learned about how powerful food pairings. That's why I said, when people say, oh, I don't like coffee, I sat in a room with like 15 new managers, and almost none of them liked coffee, which I found kind of funny, because I'm thinking, you just got hired and your response is, I don't really like coffee. I'm like, I'm not going to say that. This is a coffee company, they breathe it. And yet at the end, by the time you did all the food pairings and you tried all the blends, everybody there found a couple of coffees they really liked. And they're like, oh, I'm going to do this with the lemon cake, and that really brings out that breakfast blend. Or I'm going to do the Guatemalan with a piece of chocolate, and how it highlights that. And like, when your eyes open up to that, that's why when my buddy who was into beer said, check this out, and I was like, my only memory of beer was like high school and how horrible it tasted, and I drank a whole bunch until I,
Right, you drink until you get drunk, and then yeah.
Our big thing when I was in high school was we used to. I swear to God, Coors was like the biggest thing in the world.
Quarters, that's what I was about to say.
You would have people go, bring it back to New York, and you would throw parties, and you wanted to invite like the coolest people you knew, just so they could see you were serving Coors at your party.
I thought you said quarters, and I was like, oh my gosh, because that was my
Porter's Ale, of course, yeah.
That was no quarters. Like the drinking game quarters. Where you plop it into the glass and then you have to.
I'm talking about Coors. I'm talking about plain domestic, nothing special beer. That used to be like the nectar of the gods, and it was such a big deal because you had to bring it in pretty much illegally into New York, and that was the thing. Trying to get people who would ship it to you or whatever, and it was such a status symbol. It was so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so funny because most of my beer was probably drank plain quarters in high school. No. You'd sit there and bounce it in, and then you'd force someone else to drink, and if you missed, you were drinking. Yeah. And then they'd start making rules.
We drank beer out of the big bottles because it was cheaper.
Right. Yeah, you get the 40 ounce and.
No, but then at some point
I'm afraid to wonder what 40 ounce would taste like.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we should do a beer tasting of 40 ounce, like a Mickey's or something.
Schlitz malt liquor.
Yeah. Don't go oldie.
The Green Death.
Yeah. Right.
Michelob.
Mickey 40. Yeah, that would be interesting. That might be a good topic for a blab. Is everybody get a 40 ounce and taste it and review it and see how.
I would only need a half ounce for the 40 ounce.
Yeah, just pour a half an ounce.
I generally, when I'm doing a review, like the majority of the beers, I don't oddly, right? Because I have a show and like it's semi-popular, and I don't actually like beer the way some people like beer. So like a lot of the beers I'm reviewing and I'm pouring them out because I'm like, I drink great beer, but other than that, I review average to good beer. And, because it's just...
I got hooked on drinking beer before I quit drinking beer. One of my favorite things, Asiago cheese, if you're familiar with it, and apricots. And I would drink IPA with it. And it was like just incredible because it would bring out all the nuttiness and the fruitiness at the same time. So it was like,
Red Flag Dan says good cheese. And then he's also wondering if anyone remembers Buckhorn beer. I've never heard of Buckhorn beer.
I've heard it, yeah. Okay. Literally, I'm pretty sure they actually, I don't know if you have to remember it. I think they still sell it. Is that the one with the ram on the thing?
He says it's a green beer.
You remember Hams beer?
Of course.
I remember the Hams commercials, with the cartoon.
Oh, refreshing.
Schlitz and Hams.
Hams beer. Munster cheese, that's good with it. Or sharp.
I like that, and I like the, what's the other one? We're just sliding off the cheese. There's another soft cheese. Oh, Havarti that I can never get, but Havarti dill. But see, I eat kosher, so it's hard to find kosher cheeses anywhere. So it's just like, so I'm limited to what I can find. You
have two sets of dishes in the house, Ross?
No, and I'm not that kind of kosher.
Okay.
I'm probably, which is the standard, right?
Yeah, no, I have friends that do that still.
I don't do the milk meat stuff, but we just do more like I generally eat organic and certified kosher. So that tends to be good food.
Or halal. Will you eat halal also?
It depends. I'm okay. Like if there's people who are actually won't eat halal for religious reasons, even if it's kosher, because it's also halal.
Yeah.
And if it's kosher and organic and also halal, then I don't care. To me, it's mostly ingredient. So I eat ingredients ingredient kosher. So in other words, I don't eat shellfish or
Well, I would imagine most beer is what they call parv, right?
Yeah, there's only a few beers like Sam Smith's. I think they do use some gelatin, and then you got to watch out for stuff with natural flavors, which you really don't want to drink that much anyway. So,
right,
like it's popular now that there's like I think it was Rogue did some kind of oyster something beer.
Oh yeah, they've got such great stuff there. So yeah.
And even No Lie, a local brewery, did an oyster bar beer that I was like, first of all, that sounds totally disgusting. Even if I didn't eat kosher.
Peanut butter and banana ale with it's got Elvis on the bottle.
Rogue beers always have a weird flavor.
Chocolate stout. You said you like chocolate stout, right?
Yeah. Have you had their double chocolate?
I have not because they weren't making it when I quit drinking. So
they got their chocolate and then they got their double chocolate, right? And is it? How do you pronounce your name? Is it Anello?
Well, you can just call me Gunner.
Gunner.
That's my real name. Yeah.
Okay. So your real name is Gunner, or that's your real name is the other one?
My real name is Gunner.
Gunner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you remind me where you were from again? You're
Rochester.
Oh yeah,
Minnesota.
That's Minnesota. That's right. You have Southern Tier there?
We can get Southern Tier here, yeah.
Okay. So you've had double chocolate from Rogue, which a lot of people feel is like some great chocolate beer. It's okay. Only because I've had other beers that are better. And Southern Tier chocolate, have you had that?
I haven't had that.
That was my first number one when I went on a chocolate beer quest. That was easily, by a long shot, the best chocolate beer out there.
The best thing at Rogue is the Purple Star Pale Ale.
I have not had that yet.
Something to live for.
I have not had that. Yeah, I've made my way around, but there's still some that I haven't circled back around to, and so I'll have to check that out. So Southern Tier, first of all, their Imperial Stouts, which is their Blackwater series, the most beautiful pouring beers. Actually, their creme brulee is probably the most beautiful pouring beer I've ever seen. It's almost like 2 or 3 layers of color just climbing up the wall as you're pouring. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it is a awesome looking beer to pour if you pour it right. Then their chocolate literally is like, when they had that commercial, I think it was a Kit Kat or something, where the guy was surfing and the whole world was chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
That's what came to mind when I smelled this beer. And it was like so amazing, but not in a natural flavors way, but in like, oh my gosh, I'm in the chocolate factory. Like, it was amazing. And it was so beautiful to pour. Nobody does a thick malt body like those guys. Beautiful beer. I gave it an A+. It was my number one beer. I gave it an A.
You can't drink that much of it, can you?
No, I think they're around 10% ABV, so it's more of a sipping kind of dessert beer. But the thing is compared to double chocolate tastes like natural flavors chocolate beer compared to Southern Tier, which tastes like you're just drinking a chocolate bar. It's really amazing. Now you get this slight tint of almost a metallic aftertaste, which is the one thing that I would say is, if it was perfect, right? If it would be perfect, it would sell all it had and go and follow me. If it would be perfect, it would lose that. But then I had Odell Lugene, which is their chocolate milk stout. I don't believe it's Imperial.
You know what? I'm going to just say goodbye. Amazing. I just wanted to stop in and see what you guys were up to. And I will check with the people at Log and Eat. Well, I'll check with their PR person, but I'm sure they would love to come on here and talk beer with you.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Because I love Lagunitas Sucks is one of my favorites. So definitely.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of expanding. They're moving out into other areas. They're like firmly entrenched in Chicago now, and
nice.
So yeah, good stuff.
Oh, and by the way, oh yeah.
What? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, by the way, I do social and marketing for Bullets to Bandages. I got to talk to you about that sometime, because I know you have a lot of different people. Anyway, they donate to all these different causes and stuff, and they just really great company. But I actually had them send out a custom one to Southern Tier to see if they wanted to have any with, team up or do any kind of thing together to support any causes. So if you know people at Lagunitas, the same thing would go there. I'm helping them get the word out to other people. So
yeah,
we'll connect sometime.
Yeah, certainly. Okay.
Yeah, because even in the other things that I know, you know a lot of different connections that might benefit from
yeah,
that.
A lot of my guys are dropping dead and retiring though too. So
yeah, that does happen.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta keep friends with younger and younger people all the time.
Exactly. Long-term relationships. Well, thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, thanks for joining in.
Yes.
Awesome.
I don't know how well you know JS, but he's just awesome. He's an awesome guy. So awesome and helpful and supportive and just everything. Really smart too.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I think I met him once or twice on a blab here or there. So yeah, he seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he really is. So now back to what we were talking about. Oh, Lou Jean.
Okay.
So Lou Jean is basically it got an A+ from me as far as the chocolate. Like it was the first thing that could even touch Southern Tier chocolate, but it wasn't a direct competition. Like it's not more chocolatey than chocolate. It's got some roast and there's more depth to it. So it's kind of a more intriguing, but not overly roasty. It's so amazing. So the thing is if you got to have those two beers and then you'll have a new frame of reference for chocolate beers and it'll ruin everything else for you. Cause I tried so many like, oh, chocolate indulgence. A lot of them say chocolate. I can barely taste it. And it's like Southern Tier chocolate, you just had a chocolate beer.
Right. Well, now here's something that so some of the chocolate and coffee beers that I've had, sometimes they kind of go almost overboard on the chocolate or the coffee. And so what do you think about that? To me, it has to kind of have a balance. I mean, if it comes out too much like chocolate milk, then I'd rather drink a chocolate milk and have a beer that's more of a beer. So,
well, I think it depends. I think it's rare. It depends on where your palate is too, because I think the rarity is for it to be, for me, to be too chocolate or too coffee, because I like those styles so often. And then this is a funny thing about like Rate Beer. If you go on Rate Beer and you see stuff, there's people who are drinking beers and they're like, oh, that's horrible. And then the beer they like they've got thousands of stuff and you drink it and you're like, that is horrid. And the problem is because their palate has had so much that to wow themselves, they've got to have something so extreme that if I went and drank it, I thought that's horrible. And if they drank a beer I like, they're thinking, oh, that's nothing. Right. And so where your palate is absolutely matters, because you want to take the beer that is cool for you and stretches you, but doesn't take you beyond what you think is good.
Right. Right.
What up, Dan?
Oh,
how's it going, Dan? How are you today?
Very good.
Thanks for joining in.
I like chocolate, but I really don't like chocolate beer.
What have you had on chocolate beers?
Not really sure, but I've tried several. I like coffee beer very well, but not chocolate.
Yeah, what kind of beer do you like? You like it roasty or?
No, I've got a different taste for beer. I'm a triple malt person myself. Belgian beers, particularly, especially ones made with the candy sugar. That's the kind of beer I like.
Have you had any Firestone Walker?
No, I have not.
Oh, if you can get that, if you can get any of their anniversary stuff that's in the box, probably some of my favorite beers. I mean, it's a $20 beer, and every time you buy one, you're just going to have a great experience. But they do Belgian, and with the kind of the candy sugar and malt body is just amazing. Like their Sticky Monkey. That is an amazing beer. And what they do is is they take all these beers. They make like 6 beers. They make them custom, barrel age them individually, and they're all made as parts to their anniversary blend. And they're like the masters of blended beers, like the only ones who I think really know what they're doing in that space. And the parts themselves are so amazing that they eventually started selling them, because each part that makes up this thing is a masterpiece all by itself. And it's just, you get a piece of paper with the beer in the thing, and it's like, it deserves the paper, because it's like, you know how much work and expertise to make every part awesome and then blend it all together into something awesome. It's a one of a kind. It's like Picasso sitting there like sketching you out something just for you on the spot. And it's like, wow, this is freaking amazing. Yeah, their beers are sick. Hold on, I got a box. I'm going to show you.
Nice. So let's see. Have you had, Dan, Surly's Coffee Bender?
No, I'm not.
Okay. That's a coffee flavored, it's a brown ale that has kind of a, I mean, to me, it seems like a good mix, but I'm not too into the coffee beers. So, you can see I was talking about Surly Coffee Bender. It's a brown ale that's brewed with coffee.
I don't know if I get Surly around here.
They're kind of limited to the Midwest right now. So mostly, Minnesota, they're a Minnesota brewery, and then Iowa, Wisconsin, and Chicago, I think, is where they distribute right now.
Yeah.
Generally, I like a brown ale beer, so I probably would like that.
Have you had Dogfish's Indian?
No, I'm not.
That's pretty solid, and most places can get Dogfish. I try and pick beers that have better distribution, because a lot of times your favorite beers, like, oh, well, nobody can get them because they're in different places. But then you get stuff like Firestone Walker stuff. Usually people, bam.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's the bad boy. And then
that's the problem I have. I read about a lot of beers, but I can't ever find them around here. That's the problem.
Right. It's hard the whole distribution of beer, I think, I don't know. To me, it seems flawed. Yeah. There's no way to get a beer from, let's say from Seattle, unless they happen to distribute to our state, which is kind of hit or miss on some breweries.
I mean, I get that some of it's based off of state laws, but it's so antiquated that they need to update and realize that nobody's lining up to say that beer is the devil. It's time to move on with society. Oh my gosh, society has moved on in so many other ways. Like, really, I can't just have that beer that you're drinking in your state over here. Like, let's move on and update. There's no reason there shouldn't be national distribution.
I totally agree with you, but here's the thing. Here in Minnesota, we have probably some of the strongest, I can't remember what they call it, but you can't buy beer from a liquor store, or liquor stores are closed on Sundays. You can't buy beer.
They're called blue laws.
Blue laws. That's what I was thinking. We have one of the strongest blue laws in the country. So you can't buy beer or any alcohol on Sunday unless it's at a bar or a brewery. They want to put it up to the legislation to allow Sunday sales, but who keeps shooting it down is the brewery, the beer distributor, and a lot of the liquor stores. And they're claiming, well, we don't want to be open on Sundays, and so this is going to force us to be open, and we're going to lose money on it. And it's like, well, as a business person, how are you going to lose money by making more sales on a day that you're forced to be closed? And then if you choose not to be open on that day, that's your business. I mean, you can choose to do whatever you want. So if you want to be closed on Sunday, close on Sunday, whatever. So I don't know.
Well, we went through that here in our own town, with the change from 9 to 10 o'clock.
Right, yeah, just to get growlers to be able to.
You don't want to stay open, don't stay open.
Right. Why does it matter to everyone else? If you want to close, at 6 o'clock, don't make it everyone else's business to have to stay open till 10 just because you don't want to. I mean, I don't know. So it's kind of like you said.
Yeah, it's mostly a lock on the breweries and all, or the distribution chains. They don't want. They like having a tight control because I think that they use that leverage to affect a whole bunch of other stuff, and they just don't want to give it up. They like that everybody has to go to the distribution because of the old laws and beg them to do whatever they want to do, and then they can kind of leverage themselves to muscle out people they don't like. It's
right.
Whole thing's weird.
Well, and we were talking a lot earlier at the beginning of this blab about so the big breweries. Or not the big breweries, but the small breweries selling out to big beer, and the big beer using their muscle to kind of control the markets. What are some of your thoughts on that, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, this is how all business sadly goes. I mean, the consumer, it's not consumer led. It's not for the benefit of you and me. It's all about positioning and strategy and control of market share and all this kind of stuff. And that's the problem. The good news is that there's enough going on on the broad market that eventually that's the bedrock of the seeds of change.
Right.
But until they can start to be a bigger force and a bigger voice, then it's going to end up being these big players who end up just like the car industry.
Right.
Car industry had its prime time where, the big three said how it goes. And then it takes a lot of time for little startups and little outskirts and enough of those people to get out there and the world to change the way it thinks about it, to be able to say, you know what, we're not down with three people running the show. And there's enough other people that people have interest in that we can start saying stuff and having it matter. Because if you have this little nothing and then you want to squack, it ain't going to make any difference. But when you have dollars behind those squacks, then that's when change slowly starts to happen. So I think we're in a good place. I think it's going to take a little more time, but I think that that's the model where kind of the big guys they're still holding on and dominant. But I think as this goes and people get more choices and all those people get smarter and come together, I think that we're going to see some better changes, I hope so.
Colleen L. just joined in. Nice. I know that she's from Minnesota, also another Surly fan.
She caught me. She's doing a show this Thursday I'm supposed to jump into. And
nice.
Nice. What's up, Colleen?
Yeah.
There's an open seat there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we have an open seat. I might have to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, but we got an open seat right now.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, the drum roll.
In the dark. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. A lot of factors, Colleen. A lot of factors there. She's gonna cut her holiday short.
Right.
For us. Okay.
Now,
yeah, so go ahead.
I was going to ask you. So, you have a lot. It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge on beer. Are you like Cicerone certified or BJCP or just?
I haven't dug into that side yet. Okay. Mostly because I'm an entrepreneur, and so I've been like, beer's my hobby, and then I have like 20 other hobbies / projects and clients, and then every other thing. So, like I built my show, and I'm an analyst, professionally as a marketing consultant and different things. Like, so all of that, like all those same things pour over then into beer, to where it's like, yeah, I'm going to look at it and be like, oh, okay, here's this. I knew getting into beer, I didn't even like beer to start with. Like, I just knew that based on my coffee experience that I was going to find beers I wanted or I liked, and I was going to go on this quest. and probably have a handful out of thousands that I actually like and would drink. And I was willing to go down that road because I feel like when you get experience and knowledge, what I call knowledge clusters in different things, I go and then you master them, and then it's just another little thing. But your mastery in one area helps you see everything else differently. And a lot of that stuff crosses over, and I think it's the same with beer. What up, Colleen?
Hi.
Howdy. Welcome.
Hey, I just jumped in my sweats. We just got home from a Yelp Elite event, and I saw that I knew you guys were doing this, and I just checked to see if you guys were still on. So
Nice. Well, thanks for joining in. Normally, I think we normally shoot for an hour, and we've gone over, so I think that's good.
It's easy to do.
You had
on
me
Blab.
at #craftbeer. I was like scanning through everything, looking for someone I knew, and then I saw, oh, and actually, sorry, shouts out to a couple of my friends who had some various blabs, but then I was like, I'm going with craft beer. I didn't know anybody there. I was like, I gotta pip in and see what's going on.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Lamely, I'm not drinking anything.
So how do you say your name? Is it Anello or Anejo?
Gunner.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at that. I just need that. Noob to noob.
Yeah, right. No, yeah. So my name is Gunner.
Oh, okay.
Screen name is Anello Grande. More has to do with cycling, but
Gotcha.
yeah. So you can just call me Gunner.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, well, so Gunner and I had, I think it was probably like, a week or two ago, I think a couple weeks ago, you jumped in on our social blabby hour or something like that. And true to form, this is a unique time. Normally I have a beer in my hand when I'm on screen. So I was probably talking about whatever beer I was drinking at the time, and I was drinking it out of a Surly mug, and he called me out. And I was like, wait, you know Surly? And he was like, yeah, I'm from Minnesota. Of course I know Surly. So,
Right.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, so that was how I found out that he was doing this show. And so, yeah, I wanted to make sure to tune in. So
Nice. Well, and you have a show coming up too, right? On
I do on Thursday. Yeah. So I've been planning it for like, I don't know, since before Periscope Summit. So I was at Autumn Brew Review. I don't know, Gunnar, did you go to Autumn Brew Review?
I didn't go to that. No.
Okay. So I was at Autumn Brew Review, and I was Periscoping from it. And on the Periscope, I have a lot of my community that crosses over both platforms, and especially beer fans, because whenever I go out to events or breweries and stuff, a lot of times I'll live stream them. And so I had one of my fellow craft beer fans in there, and we decided during the broadcast we should totally do beer blabs. And so so I was like, okay, I'm going to New York tomorrow for Periscope Summit. I won't be back for a week, but like, let's table this, let's figure it out. And so it's kind of just been something as I've been trying to catch up from all of my work after getting back from the summit and whatnot. I decided that I needed to finally just pull the trigger and do it, because everybody knows that I'm going to be doing it, and I'm like, all right, I just need to like get off my duff and do it. So because every week people are like messaging me, they're like, okay, so when are we doing that? Because I totally want to come in and drink beer with you.
Right. Well, I think it's a great topic to blab about, and you know, not to knock blab, but so I log in a lot of times, and all that's on there are marketers that are talking about how great blab is and how to use blab to, I don't know, promote your business. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not trying to promote a business. I just, you know, I like cycling, I like beer, so I'm going to blab about cycling and beer. I want to get more people on and talk to more people about those topics. So it's great when we can kind of build this type of community together. Henderson
absolutely.
Valley Fall Hornin Pumpkin Ale. Oh, don't let Jonah see that pumpkin ale. He's not into pumpkin ale.
I know. I've come to taunt him. I have a whole beer fridge full of various pumpkin beers over there.
Wow. Nice.
But
now I haven't been.
Have you tried, Ross, have you tried the Wasatch Black-O-Lantern, the stout?
I have not seen that. I don't know if we get that. I hate that beer is so hyper local.
It's out of Utah. were Wasatches.
I don't think I know most all the pumpkin beers here, so I know I haven't seen that particular beer, but I'm not sure if I've seen that brand or that brewer here, that brand.
Okay.
That brandy of beer. This, if you've ever had it, not a big beer. I'm an Imperial guy, so most beers are little to me as a giant. But this, they actually did the spices right. So if you've ever gone on the spices right, if you've ever been on the spices right, then come on down. The thing is with pumpkin beers is like Dogfish Pumpkin and all this, right? You know, I can't taste anything.
Yep. So
it's like, I'm like, okay, you said nutmeg, you said allspice, where? Because if I can't taste it, then you didn't put it in kind of a little bit. So that's the story with pumpkin beers, right? They all have this spices and no one delivers. This was the first beer that I had that I was expecting nothing out of. I was like, okay, what is this? It's probably going to be all those kind of low-level pumpkin beers always are nothing. I mean, depends where a person's palate is, but they're always like just water. And so I'm like, okay, but I had no expectation. Then when I got spices and a little bit of a sweet malt body, kind of like a New Belgian, kind of a silky, you know, I was like, what? And you know what? Very drinkable. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you your props because not only did I not expect anything, but you clearly got the spices more than some of the Imperial pumpkin beers would deliver spices. Yeah. So I was like, you got spices right. And since that's almost never happens in any of the beers, even if you get pumpkin, I'm like, I'm going to give my hats off to Anderson Valley on this. So.
Nice.
I still want a soundboard.
Awesome.
Yeah, like the sound. Clear. Yeah, like on H to H chat when you say human, I needed that sound right there. I heard it in my head, but I didn't know.
Nice.
Nice.
Let's crack into this bad boy. Mm-hmm.
Now what?
I'm having a bit of a wonky connection over here. I don't know if you
froze up there for a second.
Definitely froze.
You're doing a serious pose right now, Colleen. You're like,
yeah.
Oh, there.
You're back.
I'm having a really crappy connection over
I
here.
just do it.
I'm gonna try to refresh actually.
So yeah.
So that was one of the pumpkin. Now
this is a small, but it's cool. It's good for small. Like
okay. So normally, I mean, I won't say that I don't drink pumpkin beers. I'm not like Jonah where I won't try them. But normally the pumpkin spices, only because pumpkin spice is so overused nowadays, I don't necessarily get into them a whole lot. But I am interested in beers that are actually brewed with some pumpkin in it. Do you know very many of those that are out there? I haven't come across any other than like in homebrew recipes.
Yeah, there's I would say probably 35% of the beers, depending on your area, of course, actually use pumpkin if they say it's a pumpkin beer, they actually use pumpkin. Then there's, well, I would say even it's higher than that maybe, because then there's a smaller segment of about 30%. It's like pumpkin seeds or something like that. And there's like not actual pumpkin in there. And then if it says pumpkin flavor, like Trader Joe's has one that was like some Sarnac thing or something I saw. And I was like, pumpkin flavor and natural flavor. And I'm like, I'm not trying to drink your beaker. I'm trying to drink a beer, use a real ingredient, and then we'll taste it. Right. Southern Tier, since you get them, normally they're pumpkin, really good. This year, for the first time, they messed it up. I feel like it's hoppy, oddly, and normally it was like a kind of a caramel graham cracker crust with some spices and pumpkin. Not on the dark side. It's one of the few. A lot of the pumpkin beers go kind of darker. This was a really light ale, but it was the best of what I could get around locally that really hit you. Because Southern Tier, when they make a beer, generally they really own that flavor profile so that you get an experience. This year they added some hops to it, and that ruined it because it was like piney hops with a graham cracker piney hop. That was just like weird. I was like, sorry, you guys. And I'm like a big fan of theirs. But I had to say, no, don't do this. Go back, please, to whatever you were doing before. Because I felt like they were slipping a little bit on that. So, yeah. And same, I had that pumpkin batch. You have that, did you have the Sam Adams pumpkin batch?
I think I had a Sam Adams pumpkin last year. If they put one out last year, I think I remember having one last year. So, from what I remember, it was decent.
Harvest Pumpkin was what you probably had, because I don't know that they had pumpkin batch last year. This year they have like multiple ones, which is weird. I thought I was having Harvest Pumpkin, and I thought they renamed it, but actually they have Harvest Pumpkin and they have pumpkin batch. Pumpkin batch was not good, whatever they did. I don't know what happened there, but that was not good. But the Harvest Pumpkin normally has a squash flavor to it, which like it's not a big beer, but if you want like squash, pumpkin squash, then they do a good job on that. I thought they just needed more spices with that. And the key to it
made with squash.
What's that?
Are there any beers made with squash? I have some really good squash that I grew this year that I think would really be good in beer.
Right.
Squash is weird because I don't know that it imparts a ton of flavor, just like regular squash. Like spaghetti squash or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a squash expert, but I feel like when I'm eating squash, like I enjoy squash, but raw squash a lot of times doesn't have a real distinct flavor because it has to transfer to the beer. So it has to have like this much more flavor for you to actually get it in the cup.
Well, the squash I had would taste a lot like sweet potatoes.
Something.
Nice.
Squash to me is the alien fruit at the store that I don't know how to cook. So I just look at the shapes and I'm like, cool. I could buy one and it will rot in my kitchen as I don't know how to do anything with it.
You need to learn how to cook it.
No, pretty much everything that I've heard from recipes with squash and pumpkin is to actually like roast it before mashing it and putting it in your beer. So that way you'll get more of the actual, kind of the flavors that you're looking for in a squash. Otherwise, like Ross said, if it's raw, I think it doesn't necessarily have a flavor. So roasting it will kind of, I don't know what it does chemically, but I think it brings a lot of the sugars out or something.
Yeah, it does. Like, it's kind of the same. Like if you were to roast onions, it gets them usually a little bit sweeter. And if you use like a squash, like a butternut squash or something, it's going to be a little bit sweeter as well, because that's really similar like to sweet potatoes and pumpkin and whatnot. So just got to use
butternut
the right
squash
stuff.
tastes a lot like sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm down with that. Put some brown sugar. Put some.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Thanksgiving. Exactly. It's a sweet potato with whatever the heck my wife puts on. I don't know what it is, but it tastes like a pie or dessert or something. It's mashed potatoes 2.0, where you're like, damn, I could eat this all day long.
Right. Exactly. Nice.
Ross, I saw that you mentioned before that you don't get surly where you're at, which is very unfortunate. I'll have to send you some sometime.
Yes. I see that you see some stuff when you're out there. Like, I'm not like looking at every beer out there that everyone gets. So it's always weird. Like, you get that after a while where you're talking to people and they're like, hey, you should try this. And you're like, I can get none of those things. That sucks.
Well, and part of the problem is the reason why you can't get surly is because they're really, really strict with their distribution, because they require that their beer be delivered in refrigerated trucks, and they require that all of the places that they be sold, that they have them refrigerated 100% of the time. So therefore, it's only within whatever distance that they can get it to reasonably until they were to increase their distribution, which they're doing all the time. I mean, they're like the behemoth of Minnesota right now. But that's why you haven't seen it yet. But we just recently got it in Costco here. So. Right,
yeah, that was a big deal that they got it in Costco and, basically forced Costco to get coolers to keep their beer in.
So why do they want their beer refrigerated all the way through?
Well, because, it's their opinion, much like, the same reason why a lot of a lot of breweries require that all of their beer be bottled in brown bottles or in cans, and that's their thing. They bottle it in cans. They want to make sure that there's no light in. So they have very specific things that they feel like if their beer is not kept, and really most beer should be kept chilled. And so it's going to last longer if it's chilled. It's going to taste better if it's chilled. And it's all about quality control. So that's why for them, they don't want to put it in any store that doesn't have it refrigerated, which is why it won't go into a something like that. They don't have refrigeration, at least around here. And so, it's just a quality control issue. They want to make sure that when people get it, they know what they're expecting, and they're going to get that. So.
Well, that's the thing. If you think about it, even as annoying as it is, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't have a pony in the show as far as coldness and how it affects the beer. But what I would say is that managing the details that you can that surround beer, ultimately good beer really creates an experience. And if you want to be consistent, and even like Dogfish and all those guys, like you can get a 90-minute IPA or something, and they taste them, the batches, but you can't recreate it exactly. Like people think all products are really the same. So sometimes I get one where I'm like, that's not that great. And I'm like, other ones, I'm like, oh, that's really wonderful. There's so many variables that can affect it on the end user side and in the process side and in the brewing side that I feel like trying to manage every one that you can just puts you closer to a consistent experience with your beer. And I think that is probably why maybe they dig into that stuff a little bit more. Whether it one unit by itself actually really dramatically impacts, maybe not, but all those are a part of how can we best control the quality of and consistency of our experience of our beer. So I respect that part.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
They do a good job. Yeah, they do a great job of controlling that and doing that. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny here. We shop at Costco all the time, and one day we actually found out, I think, that they had Surly because we were getting our organic eggs out of the refrigerator, and they have all of their Surly, their excess that they don't have on the shelf in the liquor part of it, they have it housed behind the eggs at our Costco. And so like they didn't have like additional capacity for it. That's how important to bring Surly on. They just found a place to house it. And then they have like a small space in the actual liquor store that they have it on the shelf. So they're constantly having to refill it.
Right. Well, and an interesting thing is that I have a friend that works for the distributor down here in Rochester for Surly, and he said that the second they got Costco became the biggest retailer of Surly of all the other stores in Rochester combined, at least for the ones that they carry, because obviously you can't get like Surly Wet at Costco, or you can't get some of the other beers, but of the ones that they carry, they're the biggest retailer here in town. So I mean that's huge for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're a juggernaut for anything. I mean, if essentially when they come into the market for something, like when they start doing like hard alcohol, like that, they become a dominant factor. I mean, you could watch like Shark Tank. They talk. I think Mr. Wonderful talks about how powerful their influence is. That's why a lot of people want to get a product into the test market to Costco, because they're just a juggernaut when it comes to moving product.
Right.
Well, I thought it was a great move because, I hadn't even seen a cooler in Costco, and I walked in there and here was a cooler, and I walked up there and it's a full of Surly beer. What the hell, I bought one of every one.
Yeah.
Took it home and tried them all.
Yeah. That's how to get it.
It's really awesome though, because it again, I love that from obviously it's a local brand, so like I love seeing them grow, and I love seeing what Costco can do for them. But I also love that Costco obviously really wanted to bring them on because they were willing. It was like, where there's a will, there's a way. And no matter what, Surly was not going to bend on
Right.
their requirements. And
Right.
it was like, if you want our beer, like, we want to be in your store, but here's how it's going to happen. And so, yeah, they made it happen. But I love the fact that they didn't at all budge on that. I mean, that would ruin their, people's perspective on their brand, because that's
Right.
part of what they're all about, is that quality control. And have you been to the new brewery?
I went up there just for Surly Fest, so that was my first new Surly brewery experience, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And to kind of expand on what you were saying about how they required Costco, from what I heard, it took them 5 tries. Costco would ask them, and Surly would tell them what their requirements were, and Costco would turn it down, and then Costco would come back and say, okay, we want it. And so in the end, because, I mean, ultimately, I think it comes down to having good beer and Costco wanting to sell a good product, that they said, we'll relent and do this. And so, I mean, basically it's a win-win for everyone. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good job.
Did
The
you
only
ever
cold
go
beer
to
you can
your
buy at
whole
Costco.
brewery so that you saw the comparison?
I did. I have gone to the old brewery. I'd been to the past, I think, 2 Surly Fests, 2 or 3.
Okay.
I think 3 at the prior brewery, and then this past one at the new brewery. And so it's huge compared to their old brewery.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, like this, to see like where you get beer served at the new brewery, like to put it in perspective for everybody else, there's like, the old brewery was like this 6 or 8 foot wooden bar, just like cramped in this fairly small room that was just at the forefront of their entire, warehouse space or whatever there. And the size of their entire bar is now, it was smaller than like the one, like the short end of their bar now, where you like go up to order beer. The whole rest of their bar has got to be like, I would say 50 feet long, and all like stainless steel. It has bar stools up at it. They're always full. They have a full menu, tons and tons of large, like, family style tables all over this huge area. And then they have these like 6 gigantic, basically I call them silos of beer. When you pull up outside, it looks like a beer farm, because these huge beer. The thing is that they said that they're pretty much all full with Furious, like at any given time. They brew most of their other beer up at their old location, and so it's mostly Furious that comes out of those tanks, which is insane. Right,
it's incredible the amount that they're brewing to cover their growing distribution. So amazing. I'm gonna have to actually end this. I have to go, but I want to kind of give a heads up that next week, same time, same place, I'll be doing another one, and I'm hoping that there's a website, barrelbackers.com. They should be also on to talk about their website, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but barrelbackers.com, it's supposed to be a new way to get kind of rare or out of distribution beer.
Okay.
So I think it goes on like a vote. So they have a number of beers that they have up for vote, and if enough people vote and pre-order without having to pay, and once you get enough votes, then they'll order them. And a heaty topper. See, I had never had a heaty topper, and I'd love to try one.
I had one by accident because my friend who had a craft beer, well, I was friends with the guy who's friends with the guy who owns the craft beer bar. And so he brings out this stuff after we close. He locks up, and the music is cranking, and he's pulling out some of his stash. And we're like,
stash,
what?
yeah, nice.
And after he'd been drinking for a little bit, he started pulling more out, and we're like,
nice,
we'll keep going. Well, drink another one. The hell else
right,
are we?
yeah.
And I didn't even know what it was, like that it was a big deal. And it was just
right.
in a can, and he's pulling out 2 or 3 beers, and we're like, I'm like, either way, it's cool, I guess. What is it? But I later looked it up. I was like, oh, that's that, and that was
right.
amazing. It was
well, it's supposed to be so rare that, I mean, even if you live in Vermont, it's hard to get a hold of. I mean, there's only a couple of stores that have it, and yeah. So I would love to get my hands on a heaty topper or a Pliny.
Kept the can for my little backdrop.
Gunnar,
right, yes.
the Rare Beer Fest here?
You know, I was thinking about going to it. Was it last? Whenever they had it last, I was thinking about doing that, but I may have to try to head to that this year.
Yeah, I haven't personally been on the last 2 years, and last year apparently was better than this year. They do it in March, I believe. They upped the price this year a little bit, and so,
right, yeah, it's a lot more pricey than some of the other craft beer festivals. So,
yeah,
but you're getting rare beer, so
exactly. I mean, and so from that standpoint, it's like, you know, it makes sense. Last year, I think it was only like 75 or something like that, but this year was 100, and then
right.
apparently, like, it got more popular too. So, like, people didn't get beer as they did before, and so I think they gotta have to rework it and figure it out. But I'm interested just in going to see, because I hear like some of the beers that they have there are pretty on point. So.
Right. Well, just to be able to try. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing with this Blab and this whole community is just to be able to try different beers and everybody talking about it. And Ross has got his Stormtrooper going across the bottom there. Nice.
He's got an attitude. I don't know. He's on edge. I'm not even making eye contact with him.
To fire a blaster at someone.
He's got the blaster gangster style.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so I'm going to have to go here, guys. I really appreciate everyone stopping in and talking, and I will see you all next week, hopefully, and I'll try to catch your Blab, Colleen, and we'll just keep this community going.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be on Thursday at 8 o'clock Central Time. So. Okay. That might, I mean, that's a little bit, because I have another Blab that I do at 8 o'clock for cycling. So. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure. It's hard to say how long it'll go. I'm going to try to keep it to an hour, but you know how blabbing goes. So.
Right.
So we'll see. Otherwise, it'll certainly be on the record. So even if you can come by and say just a bit, that'd be awesome.
Excellent. Like I said, thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.
See you later.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Bye. See you then.